When I was seeking God for revelation about what courses to do for Kingdom Shifters Wellness University last year, the Lord told me to do a course on understanding spiritual parenting relationships. So I put that on the calendar for 2022, but I had no idea that so many people would come to me for counseling and consultation concerning spiritual parenting relationships. And I truly believe that God wanted me to do the webinar because so many people are broken by spiritual parenting relationships. So many parents are broken because of interactions and relationships with spiritual children. So many people that are onlookers or just have had some experiences with spiritual parenting relationships, or even organizations that operate in some form of spiritual parenting relationships, have some ungodly or unhealthy or misconceived perceptions about these types of relationships. And all of this is really giving God and his concept of spiritual parent-child relationships a bad name. And I really believe that God wanted me to do the webinar to bring some healing to this area. Also, some understanding and clarity about what true spiritual parent-child relationships are, how to walk in them in a healthy manner, and receive the fullness of what he desires them to be in the earth. And so that is what my webinar is going to be about. I am also writing a book that will accompany the webinar, and that will also be available in it as an extension or in addition to the webinar. So you don't have to attend the webinar to purchase the book, but I highly recommend attending the webinar because you get to ask me questions. We get to search out your personal experience, and it is just always good to receive hands-on impartation. However, the book that I am doing, called Understanding Spiritual Parenting Relationships, is also very detailed. Some of my spiritual children also share their journeys in that book. I as well share some of my journey as a spiritual daughter, and then I share how I came into understanding and evolving as a spiritual parent. And I believe the greatest gift that the webinar and the book gives is biblical foundation, because we are doing so many things in the earth but without biblical foundation. And so I provide biblical foundation to spiritual parenting relationships, and why God designed them, how they do not take the place of natural child-parent relationships, and how you can operate in them from a healthy manner. And so that is probably the greatest gift that I give in the book and the webinar. I also believe just debunking some of the misconceptions, really giving clarity for the purpose of the relationships, and truths about some of the challenges around the relationships, because a lot of times we believe that these type of relationships are supposed to be perfect. No. So we have this misconception that because it is kingdom, that it is perfect, but we're all being perfected through Jesus Christ. Okay. And relationships are what you make of them. Okay. And you have to have the tools and skills to really make them healthy and to evolve effectively. Also, it's so important to recognize if relationships have reached their plateau, if they really are spiritual relationships where you are operating and walking together eternally. Have they been breached? Are there factors that have altered God's true design of that relationship? And so many times we don't take these things into consideration. The mentoring process of a spiritual parent-child relationship is so important. So important. And so if you don't process fully through that part of the relationship, but you're still, and you're wounded from that area, but you're still claiming this is my spiritual parent that has hurt me, or whatever the case may be, without even regarding where you were in that season of the relationship, where they were, if you even really understood the purpose of the relationship. All of those things are a factor. And if you were truly evolved into a spiritual covenant relationship, because spiritual parent-child relationships are about covenant, did you evolve into a covenant? And so many never really reach covenant level, but they're so traumatized and hurt by things that happened before that season evolved. And so that season, getting to that season and actually being birthed into the covenant that God has for you and into God likeness is key to that being a solidified relationship. So many people are identified as spiritual children, but not really fully come into the covenant of spiritual children. And so when you are identified, that is just where you really are operating in the potential of the relationship, but not the reality. Okay. And so so many people need healing from, and even just a release to let the relationship go, because you are operating and holding on to potential, but not the reality. And if you're not willing to be restored in that relationship with that person to come into the fullness of reality, then you really need to let that relationship go and ask God to send you someone that you feel like you can trust to help evolve you into the fullness of a covenant parent-child relationship. Okay. And so I will share more about that in my book that will be released July 30th, and at my webinar that is also going to be July 30th from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. So I hope to see you there if you believe that you are a spiritual child, if you believe that you are a spiritual parent, and if you have been challenged by these relationships, whether you don't believe in them or whether your belief has been broken by an experience. Look forward to seeing you at the webinar. Shift right now.